Welcome back everyone to another video in our Dirt 4 series here on Knee Pit Gaming. So in our very first video, we took a look at we started off looking at the options and extras, moved on to mailbox, and then ended up with the My Team functionality. Well, in this video, we're going to get into vehicles and the events. So to get started, to me, it makes the most sense to start off with the vehicles. We need to see the vehicles that we're going to be using to do the racing. So let's start there. You've got three options. At the very beginning of the game, you won't have anything in your garage because you won't own any cars. So the garage will show you the cars that you own. Right now, I simply have one car in the R2 section, and it is currently in use. I assume that means that I simply have a rally that is underway that I have not finished, although I'm not exactly sure about that. So I only have one. I have a spot right now for 4 vehicle slots, which can be upgraded through the My Team area. But right now, I've only purchased the one car, and you can see the specifics of that particular car. We're going to look at that more here in just a moment when we look at the different sections. Now, as I mentioned in the very first video, and I'm going to mention it here again for those of you who may not have seen the first video, this is my very first entry in the dirt racing series. I am not a veteran of the franchise. This is my very first one. So I am not claiming any excellence or expertise in this game. I am not going to be the one who's showing you exactly how to get yourself to the top of the leaderboard. This series is going to be about having fun and learning and identifying with a new way of in style of racing. I have come from asphalt racing, NASCAR in the past, so this is going to be a lot of fun for me to discover a new style. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move from garage into the other ways of actually purchasing cars. So we know we're going to see the cars that we own in our garage, but how do we get new cars? Well, you're going to do that either in the dealership or the classifieds. Dealership's going to give you a brand new car. Classified is going to give you access to some cars that you cannot otherwise purchase in the dealership, or maybe with a little different upgrades on the car. Now, my first thought on this was, ooh, great. This is going to be a way like an online classified section. So if I want to sell a car that I currently own, I can do it through the classified section, and other players will be able to purchase this online. Well, it doesn't appear as though it works that way. It appears as though the game shows you a list of cars that are available based on some of the settings in your My Team, such as the private collector perk. And so here, we're going to start off by taking a look at the dealership. These are the new cars that we can purchase, and it gives us a great opportunity to see the different types of cars from the very beginning. This is the beginning rally division. So you're going to have your R2 and your R5 specifically for rally, and you start off in R2. So let's take a look at those cars. So the R2 cars, about 180 horsepower and not quite 2,300 pounds. So not nearly as powerful as some of the other cars you're going to encounter through the course of this game, but you do have a couple of options here. You can see not a whole lot of difference. A difference in one is turbo, one is a naturally aspirated engine, and a little bit of difference in horsepower, but for the most part, they're fairly similar. Okay, and you have an option of always to purchase a vehicle. We already have a Ford Fiesta R2 in our garage, so we don't need to purchase a new one, but it does give you an option to see just how much these cars would cost and how much money you're going to have to save up and how well you're going to have to do in events before you'll have the ability to purchase. Next, we move over to the R4 division. Let's take a look at what these have to offer. So you can see now we're up to 280 horsepower and just under 3,100 pounds and a cost of about 75 grand here, or for 53 grand, 300 horsepower and just under 3,000 pounds. So a little bit different on the vehicles and a little bit different cost, but you can see now we're moving up a little bit more. And then finally we get to the R5 division, which is, as far as I can tell, the very top division for the rally cars. Let's take a look at what we get in here, and you can see the expense and cost has definitely increased along the way. So we're at 150 grand for your choice of these. And while there is a little bit of deviation here, 285 horsepower for the most part, you're looking at 280 horsepower, a little over 2,700 pounds. The big difference here is the R2 cars that we were looking at the beginning were front wheel drive. Now you're getting into the all wheel drive. Okay, so as we move on through, now you're going to get into the Super 1600s, 1600 referring to the cc's of the engine. And now you're getting into the discipline of rallycross. So this is essentially going to be your beginning rallycross car. Then as we move our way along, you're going to see your RX2, also for rallycross, but a little bit better and a little bit faster. Okay, so now you're up to 310 horsepower, 2,400 pounds. And then finally, we're going to go into the RX supercars, and these are the ones you see on TV in the rallycross events. 600 horsepower, 2,700 pounds. These are the beasts that are flying through the air over the jumps, going on dirt and on the asphalt as well. And you can see quite a few options here to choose from, but for the most part, they're all basically the same. A little bit of difference here and there in horsepower and weight, but for the most part, they're the same. And these are very expensive at $310,000. Now we're going to get into some of the specialty cars. Okay, we've looked at the rally cars. Now we've looked at the rally cross vehicles. Now we're going to get into some of the stadium vehicles. We start off with the buggy. Okay, this is for your circuit racing and the small stadium circuits, very short tracks, a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing that's going to happen here. These cars, or excuse me, the buggies, are rear-wheel drive and 4-speed. Now, 210 horsepower, only 1,470 pounds. These things fly. And they'll cost you $100,000. Okay, let's move on to the trucks. Your starter truck, if you can call it that, $300,000. These things are beasts. And this is just at the entry level. 700 horsepower, just under 3,600 pounds, 3-speed rear-wheel drive trucks. And then after that, we move on to the 4-wheel drive trucks, which cost 400 grand and get you 900 horsepower and a little over 3,800 pounds. So you go from rear-wheel drive to all-wheel drive here. And finally, we end up with the carts. Now the carts, thankfully, don't cost that much, only $18,000. They have 120 horsepower, essentially a motorcycle engine in these things, and a weight of only 687 pounds. So the driver itself, I'm not sure if that includes the driver or if that's without the driver, but you can see the driver makes a lot of difference to the weight of this car for sure. And they are rear-wheel drives. So those are the vehicles that we have available here. Remember, we are looking at brand new vehicles. So as we back out, go to the dealership. Now let's go to the classifieds. The classifieds, you're going to see some of the same cars that you've seen before, but we're also going to pick up some additional cars. There are some kit cars available, and you can see we're sold out there. And there is one car here available for a little over 49 grand, and you can see the upgrade level of the parts on this car. Okay, then we get into some of the other styles of cars that we can't purchase new anymore because we're going to get into the historics. And you can see that as we get over here. Historic 1, 2, 3. As we move around, so let's start at the H1, and you get an idea at some of the vehicles that are available here, as well as the cost. Nothing like a Mini Cooper out at the rallies. Then the H2 division, we only have one car here right now, but my understanding is as you upgrade your My Team area and you get the private collector perk updated, you'll have access to more rare cars and hopefully better cars as well through this area. So right now we only have one available for a little over 41,000, and again you can see the level of the parts that it has. More H2 And here you get to see some much more expensive cars, particularly here if you want the Renault. And then we've also got a Ford Escort in here as well that is pretty highly upgraded considering where I am in the game and compared to other cars that we've seen so far in this area. Then finally we'll go to the H3 division, and that's where we're going to find these cars. You can see a few upgraded parts and pieces on this car, and so 44,000 there, 64, or all the way up to 102,000 there. Okay, then you get your Group B cars, which you can see, again, we're talking about cars that you cannot purchase new because they're historic. So we're from 1986 here, and as we move around, you can see very expensive to purchase there, and also you again see the level of the parts. Now some of these others, we've seen the Super 1600s, the RX2 supercars, but just to give you a frame of reference, you can see the level of upgrade and also the cost of these vehicles if you choose to purchase them through the classified as opposed to through the showroom. Okay, and then once again, you see some of the more historic from 1987 here. So lots of cars available for you to purchase. And then of course we ended up with a very similarly priced cart and all D-level parts on that. So you've got a couple of ways of purchasing cars. We've taken a quick look at the different types of cars. Essentially, just to go back over this, again, we're in the dealership, so now we're not going to see the historic cars, but you start off in R2, and your goal, if you decide to work your way up, which I figure most people will, but I'm having a lot of fun in the R2 section right now. So you work your way up through rally. There's the end of the rally cars. Then you get into the rally cross cars, 3 more divisions there, and then you get into the different closed circuit racing vehicles with 1 buggy, a couple of trucks, and a cart. So that gives you an idea of the different divisions that you have within the game. Let's work our way back out, and now let's talk about the events. So already you can see on the first screen several options as to how you want to play the game. You start off with at the bottom, which is Joyride, and that's going to be a lot more fun based. You've got your basic free roam where you can just drive around with no particular aim in mind. You can simply work on whatever skills that you desire. Then you have several options not bad at all. Several options available here within Joyride. So essentially, if I click on, let's say, the Mini Cooper, okay, you can see the different challenges that are now available and what your goal is. Here, the first one, we see a time attack and the various times that you would need to meet in order to reach a certain level. Then the smash attack, this is where you would knock over the barriers for signs rather, and the more blocks that you knock over, the higher the medal you can receive. And of course, all of this is going to help you earn credits and various achievements within the game. So that's Joyride. Then you've got the Dirt Academy. This is where you're going to have the option of learning much more about how to enhance your experience and your driving skills within the game. You can choose to learn more about Rally, Land Rush, which is the stadium cars where the trucks and the buggies are, and then of course Rallycross or Historic Rally. So it's going to teach you more about the cars themselves, the co-driver, the handling, and some different techniques you can use to become a better driver. Then you've got Free Play. This is where you can design your own championships. Take a quick look here. Okay, what type of championship do you want? Okay, let's say we want a rally championship. You can choose the difficulty, the different vehicles that you can possibly do, and then of course load or save a championship. So let's say we want to do rally, and again you can see the different rally cars that are available, some with the modern cars and some historic. So let's say we want to go R5. Okay, we want to go with the top modern cars in rally, but I don't own one of these cars. You can see my vehicle shows 0. Well, I am going to have to get one of these cars on loan. And what that means is right above, you can see the loan company's cut is 83%, which means if I win 10,000 credits, then 8,300 credits are going to go to the loan company. So I'm not going to be left with a whole lot. That's where it really comes into play to own your own vehicle if this is a series you plan on racing a lot. And I would imagine a lot of people are going to spend a lot of time in the R5 division. Okay, so for now, let's go ahead and pick this car. So now we have our car selected. Let's add an event. Okay, what type of event do we want to use? Well, we can choose from these 5. We've got Australia, Spain, Sweden, the US, and Wales. Each offers a different experience. So with Australia, you're going through the outback. Michigan, you're going through the woods. Spain, I believe, is actually paved. And then Wales, you have some very treacherous areas. And then Sweden, I have actually not visited. I believe that's where the snow is in the game. So let's say we want to go to Australia. Okay, so then this is where the My Stage comes in, or Your Stage as they call it. You get to design a stage of your own by using 2 sliders. You have different lengths, so we can make the length very short, and complexity, let's make a short stage. Let's generate that. It's a very short stage. You can see it's only 1.38 miles, and also you can see it's not all that complex. Okay, let's change that up a little bit and say, okay, I want a very short length, but a very complex stage. Okay, and now we've got this. Now, because I'm on a very short length, there's only so much it can do with that, but it gives you an idea. Now, if we take this all the way to its logical conclusion, a very long and very complex stage, now we've got a stage that's nearly 8 miles in length, and you can see there are a lot of turns here, particularly a lot of hairpins or a lot of slow corners. Okay, so you've got lots and lots of options. Okay, here you have a section that's fewer, particularly hairpins, until you get down to the very end, but again, almost 8 miles in length. You also have the option to reverse that stage if you show desire, and then you can go for different times of day. So you've got nighttime, you've got random, which is always nice, and then all the way back up through early afternoon, midday, morning, and so on. And then your weather, you go from clear to cloudy, overcast, slight raining, misting, fog patches, which is pure evil to throw at people when you throw fog into the mix. Then you got rain showers of various amounts. So pretty amazing at some of the things you can do. And I've not really gotten to play with this a whole lot, but I'm pretty excited about what it offers for the future. Anytime you can go from lengths of almost 8 miles to down just under 1.5 miles, I think that's going to be pretty amazing for replayability. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and we generated a stage. Wow, how about that? 8 miles through there. Yes, let's go ahead and back out. And oops, let's back out one more time. So we're going to add an event, but this time let's go to Michigan. Okay, we're going to add a stage, and let's see what we get here. Let's start with the most basic, and again, you can see pretty basic there, 1.33 miles. And then let's run this all the way up to about the 8 miles. So the distances are about the same. And keep in mind, this is the least complex it could come up with. Also, it shows the elevation changes by the height of the road here. So you can see some very nice elevation changes. And again, the same thing. So let's just go ahead and confirm that. So we've got one stage there, and we can continue to add more stages for this event. Now, in our case, for the purposes of the video, we're going to go ahead and go back because we're good there. And then you would have the ability, once you have added all of the events that you want to go ahead and race that championship. Okay, and you can do the same thing for the other disciplines as well. So that's free play. And it should be a lot of replayability to that. Then you've got your multiplayer where you can either join or create a session. And the competitive, this is where you're going to get into different events that are available, either the Pro Tour or the community events. Let's take a look quickly at the community events. Okay, so the very first one is a rally event, and it shows you the vehicle. And also you can take a look at the current standings, but here you go. You can see the different stages. Of course, we would be ready to start the first one. Let's take a look at the current standings. You can see not that many people in right now. And then you'll have, as you take a look here, you can always see the total event time for those who have completed it. And then you have the option of finding yourself in here if you've completed it and are not one of the fortunate ones to be on the first page of the leaderboard. And then, of course, you see the amount of credits that will be handed out based on the tier where you end up. Okay, so as we back out of there, you can see as I scroll across, we've got different options here. We've got the daily one, then we've got weekly events, and finally a monthly event. Okay, then you've got your Pro Tour, which shows the vehicle and the next event. Now, I'm not going to get involved in that because I get too far, I'll end up doing a race. But you do have some competitive multiplayer options, even if you choose not to get directly connected to a multiplayer event. And then you've got your career mode. Now, the career mode is where I've spent a little bit of time. And yes, okay, that's where I was showing in progress earlier. It's because I have a rally that's going on, a 4-stage rally that I am in the middle of. So as always, you have your difficulty settings that we took a look at more in the previous video. Right now, for whatever it matters, I'm at a plus 94% because I've turned nearly all of the aids off except for essentially the windshield wipers, I believe. Oh, and the clutch override. So throughout the career events, you have the option of course, purchasing new vehicles, signing sponsors, signing more staff members, all of those things that we took a look at in the very first video with regards to the My Team. So that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully these first couple of videos have given you a brief introduction to what Dirt 4 is about and some of the options you have for not only playing it, but also replaying it through the generation of more stages in the game. So thank you very much for joining me, and stay tuned for more Dirt 4.